Welcome dear students of Standard 9 to St. Joseph English Medium School. Our English figures of speech which I gave you on a WhatsApp, be ready with that. So we'll discuss the figures of speech. This is the 11th part of our videos and we will start today figures of speech, as I said. A figure of speech is a creation of a special effect by the poet to draw attention to the reader. So here the reader gets the attention, it's not a normal prose. Here figures of speech means the grammar of poetry. When the poet uses specific words or specific symbolic words that we see here in the figures of speech. First is very common simile. Simile is a direct comparison made between the unlike objects which have at least one common point. One common point should be there, and for that like or as is used. For example, rises towards her day after day like a terrible fish. Here this statement says is it will be typical, but easy one I'll give you example. Babur was bold as a lion. Babur, the great Mughal emperor, he is said to be as bold as a lion. He's compared to a lion, as or like. My love is like a melody sweetly played in a tune. The like a melody, musically term. So that itself like and as is that, and it's simile. Then in case of metaphor also there is comparison between two objects, you see. Indirect comparison between the two unlike objects. Here the unlike objects are indirectly compared, taken for granted. But comparison taken for granted. See, granted means as if it is. Now I am a lake and a woman bends over me. You are a lake. Not as a lake or like a lake as in simile, but in metaphor it's taken for granted that you are a lake. Got it? Life is a struggle, carry it on. Life is a struggle. Life is taken for granted as a struggle. So that also is something that is taken for granted and cannot be called simile, but it will be a metaphor. So you understood the difference between a simile and a metaphor? Metaphor is different from simile, as you have seen that as and like is used, then it is simile. And when it isn't, in direct comparison taken for granted, then it is metaphor. Third is personification. Inanimate objects are abstract notions, as said to human qualities. Human qualities they are having, we say like that. So in this type of example I can give you is, which is already given away. For example, I think it is a part of my heart, but it flickers. Heart is given the human quality of flickering. Okay. So, inanimate object. Human beings are animate. Animation, animate, you know that. Movement and all that. Human beings are animate objects and other animals, but stationary and things which individual cannot stand on their own, they are called inanimate. Like, we'll move further to apostrophe. A direct address is made to non-living object. Direct to inanimate object or idea or inanimate object is as it was present and capable of understanding. It is not capable of understanding, yet we are giving a direct address to it like a human being. For example, O rain, shower us with your blessings. Shower up with the blessings on us. Rain is said. Rain is inanimate. How can I address? Rain cannot hear. It's not human being that it can hear, yet we address it. Then that type of when a poet addresses in his poem this type of direct communication he wants to do with objects which are not part and parcel of the human beings, and they cannot hear and talk, or that things they cannot do, and yet it is addressed. Alliteration, the consonant sound is repeated in a line, like rum, tum, tugger, ta, ta, t, t sound of consonant is repeated. Okay, that is alliteration. Then repetition is also quite common. Repetition of words is done in the lines that are given for you to judge whether it is repetition or not, that at that time the words which are there in the lines will be repeated. So the repetition is said to be done when more than one time the same word is repeated. Now tautology, another important, tautology, unnecessary use of words, है ना, use of words is done unnecessary. एक ही बात से समझ में आ जाती है, वो दो तीन और words से, similar words poet uses for rhyme. At that time we say that is tautology. Leave this chanting and singing and telling of beads. Beads means mala jhapna. So stop this chanting, singing, telling of beads. So these all are connected to the God and our, what we call it, the God's prayer we do. At that time we do all these things, but three separate things. Instead of saying only you are doing bhajans or doing God service, only that is over, but more words are used. It's tautology. Antithesis, opposite, contrasting or opposite ideas used within the sentence for poetic effect. Opposite words, see, I am important to her and she comes and goes. Come and go, they are opposite words. Oxymoron, special form of antithesis, where again this is antithesis only, but special form. How? Because it is expressed at a point. Example, the climbing moon grows small. Climbing moon, grow and small. Grow is growing. When you grow, it becomes larger. It doesn't become small. So grow and small are both, antithesis, but special type, taken together. You see, in the case of antithesis, the words are separate, comes and goes. In here, grow and small are part and parcel of oxymoron. So be very careful. There is a very small line of bifurcation or difference between this antithesis and oxymoron. Students confuse in that. So in the MCQ also, when these options are given and this type of sentences are given, be very careful that oxymoron is actually the words, special type of antithesis wherein two are given simultaneously, wherein case of antithesis they are given in the same line. Moving further, irony. The real meaning is exactly the opposite. Irony, ironical things which we see in prose also. Poets use this irony in that as a figure of speech. Opposite of that which is literally conveyed. For example, the pedestal, these appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. As you know, once a person dies, and there is no status of a king or a pauper. A king, a highest position, also goes into has to die one day, and he has to, relinquish all this things which is there in the world. Same thing the poor does. So when he says that I am the king of king, it seems ironical. Whatever man comes and does away, that stays. But once he's die or death takes place, then all these things become secondary. Yet he says in the pedestal, I am the king of kings. So that's ironical. Epigram, a brief pointed saying. It will be, an aim to excite, surprise and extract attention. A child is a father of men. Epigram, pointed saying. Child, chota bachcha, father of men. What sense it makes? It seems absurd on the top of it, with an aim to excite, surprise and extract attention. How? You'll think about it, a child and a father of men. So here, the father of men is what Wordsworth's line this wants to convey is that whatever qualities or attributes which a child is showing when he is small or not big enough, and at that time what we can judge the qualities in that will be shown also when he grows up as a man. So that is trying to say, not the actual surface meaning of this line. It is different than that, and it is epigram. Paradox, a self-contradictory or absurd statement which has some hidden truth in that. Absurd, it's absurd. It's not a useless sentence. What is this? But it has also got a hidden truth in it. It's a chai chipi hui hoti hai. इसमें a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. No, caged birds. Grave of dreams means grave means very serious, and the death place where one is buried, grave of dreams. Hmm? When a bird is caged, we say that the bird, here the poet says grave and dreams are not the part and parcel of what it seems. It actually says that it's deprived of the freedom of this bird. Birds and animals should be free. We have studied many times. So that is an important thing, truth that's been hidden in this line. So it is called paradox. Metonymy. The 13th one we are on metonymy. An attribute or a thing is represented by another closely related to it. Not exactly that, but another word is used. You will hear the beat of a horse feet and a swish of a skirt in a dew. So here also two different words are used. In metonymy, I'll give you another example of metonymy wherein you can understand it a little bit properly. After the king's death, his son succeeded to the throne. To the throne. He succeeded to the throne. After the king's death, his son succeeded to the throne. Succeeded his place, not the throne. The emperor's post is there. That is the thing. The poet wants to say the throne. He is not, succeeding. He is succeeding his father, who is a king. The prince is taking his place. So here, another word for the successor. Okay, so that is metonymy. Another word is used. Another example I'll give you. A pen is mightier than sword. You must have heard this particular line. Pen is mightier than sword. When it is a written thing, in a very sharp way it is written. That the sharpness of the sword is also nothing behind. If we do physical harm to somebody, but sometimes the words can kill or hurt that person more than even a sword. So here it's mightier. That way, mighty means the bigger or having more potential. So here synecdoche. We'll move after that. So you understood this pen is mightier. Pen is not here. Sorry, coming to the pen. The pen is not mightier. Pen. The writer who is writing the pen is mightier here. That is why. Synecdoche, if you take, then part stands for the whole. Open thy eyes and see thy God is not before these. So eyes, a part of human being. Eyes only is to be open. It's not necessary that you see with the open eye. You have to have all the parts of your body ready, or the whole human being is not taken into consideration, but only a part is used to convey the poetic effect, and that is known as synecdoche. Then climax, rising. Climax is a series of ideas. Words are placed in increasing order. Example: to be roped, tied, pulled out, snap out. So slowly the activity, the intensity of the activity increases, as you see in a film also, or a short documentary, or whatever, in a short story also. There is a climax where there is a sudden rise to a stage where your suspense increases in that particular theme of the documentary or the film. In the same way here also, word by word, the intensity of that rises. Anticlimax. Anticlimax again is the opposite of climax. The order of the thing, decreases, as you can see. For example, the rain to mist and cloud again. As you know, the order is the clouds are formed, when the mist is formed, and the rain will fall. But here, opposite of that is given, that the rain is given at the beginning, and then the order of decreasing of the process. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is increasing way of saying, a statement is emphasized by overstatement. What you see, I swallow immediately. Overstatement. Whatever I see, I swallow immediately. Many things you see. With the eyes, you see so many things, and that to swallow. So big things and other things. So that thing is hyperbole. Hyperbole also, I'll give you some more meanings of that. Hyperbole, here you can see, where you say the king or a person who is saying that he has got things or as ability to do things which is also can be called as the factor which is beyond his doing it, and that is why it is called hyper. Transfer appetite. Transfer appetite. Appetite here is an adjective. Adjective is placed in a different place. Steadily cantering through the misty solitude. Steadily cantering through the misty solitude. Misty. Misty is having mist. So a mist is in the atmosphere. It's a misty atmosphere, not a misty solitude. Solitude means silentness. No? So solitude, loneliness, and that it doesn't concern with misty. Pun. Use of words which is capable of having more than one meaning. It's humorous. Whenever a poet wants to create humor, he uses this pun. You are a man of weight and consequence. Weight. For a man, weight means also having a lot of fat in him, and he's or he or she is looking very strong that way. That is a weighty, having weight. And another weight is also for the personality or his ability to tackle things. He has got weight in his words, or that weight, or what he says has weight. Then we say that weight is the word which is related to his ability. So haftiness and ability both become a part of this word weight, and that is called pun. Onomatopoeia, it's very important. Onomatopoeia, poet uses this many times, to produce sound or echo. The sound or echo are being produced. Here the otter whistles his mate. Otter whistles his mate. Means what? He whistles his mate. The otter whistling is a sound. It gives your mind in a mind the otter is whistling. That sound of whistle. Or the rain drop patters on the roof. Pattering of the rain. That pattering with the sound which the rain makes when it falls on the roof. That is also onomatopoeia. Interrogation. Interrogation is a question is asked not for the sake of getting an answer, but create poetic effect. Okay, here the poet uses this particular figure of speech of interrogation to ask question, but not to get the answer. He wants this interrogation to question you, to deep delve into you, what this means. We ask the question to suggest us something, not to so it's a rhetoric type of a question. It is not a question of answer. That is why it is called interrogation. Whom thou, so the question example, whom dost thou worship in this lonely dark corner of temple with doors all shut? Whom you are worshipping in this closed dark room? Doors all shut. You are doing something and you are closing, you are praying whom? Poet says, he doesn't want the answer. Exclamation, simple. Exclamation always has the exclamatory mark at the end of the line. The poet uses exclamation to show, as you know, you studied in simple grammar, that exclamation is what you call it, a special type of grammatical statement where you want to show emotion or surprise or that type of feelings, sudden feelings when you want to show, then that is known as exclamation. Anastrophe. Inversion of the construction of sentence by changing the normal order of the word. Sometimes you must have seen in grammar, from the grammar point of view, whatever you do, write a sentence or want to write a paragraph, you use a proper grammatical statement. But in poetry, the grammatical aspect is different, as I told you. The figure of speech itself is the grammar of poets in particular. So here, anastrophe is when the poet wants to use his own style of writing a sentence or writing lines of the poem without, considering the normal type of a sentence which you use in normal life. Internal rhyme. The internal rhyme is always musical, the rhyming that goes. The rum-tum-tugger doesn't care for a cuddle. The rum-tum-tugger doesn't care for a cuddle. So here this rhyming sound is there, singing, rhyming. That is known as internal rhyme. Euphemism. Unpleasant idea of death or disagreeable things, where the poet wants to say things which are very difficult to, understand or hurt. It hurts, particularly understand means the hurting of that particular lines or the word which are like death and other things which you don't like to hear that words itself, hurts you. But that sober way of saying that those words means which the poet uses is for the softness. Spoken manner. Example, when the body perishes, all perishes. मौत आएगी और सब कुछ खत्म हो जाएगा. मौत. You didn't use death. When death will come, everything will get destroyed. Poet doesn't use that normal jargon or words which we use in our normal life. But he says this, so nice it looks, death word and this perishes word. When the body perishes, all perishes. Perish word, it's sober. It's not compared to the death. It is much more easier to digest, right? The last one is litotes. Use of negation to convey a positive meaning. Negative and positive transformation. When you will study, you'll get these words more. For example, there is no road through the woods. The no road through the woods means obviously no road is used. No is used means negation. No word is used as negation here means what? The negativity is used here to show positive things, or the poet would have said that is that the wood is roadless, or that way. But here he uses to tell us that the woods are having no roads to nowhere. When he uses in the this particular lines, then he is said to be having used the figure of speech litotes. Another example of litotes is he is no fool, he is wise. He is no fool, the poets sometimes use. I shall not be sorry. I shall be glad. I will not be sorry. Not a little milk is there in the jug. There is not a little is just not enough. There is not enough milk which I wanted. That much it is not there. So these type of words and particular figures of speech which the poet uses for his own interpretation of things, and he wants to maintain his rhythm and style and metrics of the poem. He uses this type of different grammatical, what we can say, words which are not, which we don't use in our normal prose, and that when he uses it, then the poet is said to have made use of a particular figure of speech. So with this, and there are many other, but up till now, if you learn this many, it is okay. And as and when we learn more poems, and on the way, in the process, we come to the other figures of speech, we will also learn the others. So you revise this figures of speech which you have already written as per the instructions I given, and if you have written it, please revise it and understand it. With this, we will proceed to the other topic of the poems, or the other textual lessons which are in the line. So we will go that, and we will do that in the go through that in the further class. Till then, goodbye.